This is partners in the process, 'cause we're built better together.
We're here today, another episode of Partners in the Process. Shelly, Bobby, we're here today with Shannon and Katie from Seven Cedars Supply and Air Masters.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, thank you guys for coming on with us today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We've known Shannon and Katie for a very long time. Been friends, family for a very long time now. And actually been beating you up for quite a while to maybe come on here and talk with us because
Our schedules, you know, we both have kids and we've been traveling with some baseball, and then we finally got a time to get together.
Yeah.
So,
which is great because Seven Cedars, we'll talk about, you said it's been in business for 18 years. So when we talk to entrepreneurs and we talk to people in business and couples in business, how long have you guys been married now? Because we got married very similar.
Yeah, 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
We're coming up and celebrating that. We just made plans for our anniversary. We're going to hike rim to rim at the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
We're not that explored. You got to explore more. Like,
It's more one side than the other.
But you guys already did something like that, like a helicopter deal, did you not?
Yeah, we hiked Havasa Falls for our 10th anniversary. That was 10 miles down and 10 miles back out. This one's a little longer, so we'll be going from rim to rim of the Grand Canyon.
Oh,
Wow.
Don't lie, we're going to go to Sedona and some spas afterwards.
There's gonna be a little R&R also. But, yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, I'll kind of get into it a little bit. We'll just go pretty deep. One of the things we really like to talk to people about is not only the entrepreneurial journey, but the struggles within that and the success and how you guys were able to overcome some of the things that you ran into that are very common that a lot of people see. We'll start with you. You said you purchased your company originally that's been around for a lot longer than 18 years, but you started very small in Sullivan, Missouri, correct?
the business was in Steelville, Missouri. It was a single owner operator. And then when I purchased it, we mainly do distribution. I moved it to Sullivan. That's where I lived, and you know, we're delivering our boxes, so it didn't really matter where the warehouse was.
And what product and supply does Seven Cedars do?
We do food service supplies, janitorial supplies. My claim to fame is toilet paper, even though that's now a smaller part of the business.
Your TP King?
Yeah, TP King. I wish I was a king, but still a small fish in a big pond. But and then we do a lot of safety supplies. We sell a lot of gloves and industrial supplies to factories. Industrial is a pretty big sector of our business.
Is the biggest portion of your business consumer-wise, is that industrial, or do you do to individuals, or is it just to commercial?
If somebody wants to walk in, you know, a standard case of household toilet paper is 96 rolls, so it can be a lot for people. They don't always know we're there. We mainly commercial based, so we're not advertising to, you know, we're not really a retail market. In my opinion, it's a totally different way of advertising. I've always relied on sales reps. We have to go into business to business and have those relationships, versus retail is pumping more advertising out there, you know, to let the community know. But
How many employees do you have at this time?
I think in total we're at 8.
Oh.
Employees? And how many locations?
2, we have a couple employees in Columbia, Missouri. The other sector of the business that Katie handles is a franchise. So it's all one name now, but ultimately was 2 different pieces.
So with you handling those supplies, Airmaster now, which you took on about a year and a half ago, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
What does Airmaster do?
Sure. We do odor control and scent marketing, and we are strictly a business-to-business operation. So we sell to other businesses where we just make a more inviting, welcoming situation. That could be anywhere from the gas station restroom to a boutique hotel in their lobby and their hallways, or in the hospital setting, in the hospital hallways and patient waiting rooms. Even sports arenas, so we're in sports locker rooms and their restrooms there.
That's awesome. So if you have a franchise, do you have a territory?
I do. So we own a pretty large territory, pretty much the middle of Missouri. We go all the ways to Warrington, all the ways down to Stillville, right outside Eureka, and then all the ways to Sedalia, up Highway 70.
Warrensburg, we go out to Warrensburg and all the way up to Marshall, up north Moberly.
Oh, wow, yeah, you live pretty far up there.
I think there's about 15 counties in total.
Yeah.
How many businesses would you say that you guys service then?
We have over 495
495.
that we service every 4 weeks.
So I know one of the conversations you and I had is distribution, because you were talking about getting bulk supply in, but now you actually had to get into delivering. So how many vans and operations do you have there as far as delivering routes, things like that? Do you deliver to your businesses, or do they get drop shipped?
Correct. They deliver. So we perform a service. So we go in and actually service the units, take care of them every 4 weeks. Our delivery and route personnel are inside that business taking care of that. So once you sign on with us, there's nothing you ever have to do.
I gotcha.
again, so that way we take care of you. We're providing a service that some people miss.
Yeah,
That's
so a
right.
lot of people get wrapped up on what the product is you're selling and the
Right.
price of that, but they get the service with the product.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I gotcha.
Yes. We have a total of 5 route vehicles that we have that
Okay.
are out various different times. Like Shannon mentioned, we're from 2 different areas. We have a warehouse in Sullivan and then one in Columbia, Missouri.
And does that 8 employees include both of you guys' companies?
Correct.
Okay.
We have a couple co-share, so having 2 companies, we co-share like an accounts manager that we have that does a lot of invoice processing, customer service, a warehouse manager, and then our route drivers are independent to the companies.
And I know you guys both personally are very involved as well on a day-to-day. So what's your day-to-day operation look like within your company?
Man, I'm the guy that wears many hats, you know, so I still have to fill in on routes when people are on vacation. Just not quite big enough where you have that floater person. You know, we do have some floater people that are multi-task and know different positions when needed. But yeah, I mean, I pay the bills. I handle accounts, make deliveries, you know, when needed, and just really trying to keep everything moving. You know, and when everybody's there and everything's going good, you know, everything's good, right? And then sometimes people get sick, people get hurt, and you got to fill in those gaps.
Or people quit, and then you got to try to find people, or you're trying to expand, and you got to find people to fill those spots. Because I will say recently, even though it wasn't like it was recent, but within the last couple of years, you've expanded your facility pretty significantly.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're a small fish in a big pond, but I did put in an addition that doubled our size, and you know, my father's very conservative, and he says, "What are you doing?" You know, and I'm like, "Well, I want to grow, and if I'm going to grow, I have to have space to put things." And he's like, "Well, don't you need to have this and that first?" I'm like, "So if I go and I get that business, where am I going to put the stuff?"
Right.
So yeah, I mean, might be getting ahead of itself a little bit, but once I got to the point where I could think ahead in business, you know, then I started to be more successful. Like, I use the box store, you know, like a Walmart, for example. Did they put out Halloween stuff in the start of October? No, they put out Halloween stuff in like August.
I saw some
and they
at
want it
Lowe's
all
yesterday.
sold by October, right? So, and not to put them, because I'm a small business owner and I try to support small businesses, but once I got that mindset of, you know, to think far ahead, I was able to run a much more successful business.
Yeah, otherwise you're just being reactive instead of proactive.
I was at one time trying to advertise and do things, and I was thinking about right now. And so everything that I was putting my money into was a waste.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I gotta get smarter than what I'm doing here, you know, and so I had to think about the seasons. You know, we're in Missouri, so you got 4 seasons, and business has seasons. I was actually listening to some podcasts that you had, and you were talking about seasons. My business has seasons. I mean, our slow time is going to be around the holidays. Like when you're selling to factories and people aren't working because they're off for, what do you have, about a week between, you know, Thanksgiving. That affects the business. You know, just people aren't in schools, kids aren't in schools, and things like that. So we definitely have seasons. We're in our more busy time of season right now.
No, we've had some conversations, I think, briefly about this in the past, but I wanted you to talk to people. The side of the industry that you're in is a consumable, correct? I mean, this isn't something that you're selling for them to resell.
No.
They're consuming it within their business, so it's a sunk cost for them, correct?
Most of it I would call disposable. So,
Disposable.
Yeah, like we sell to restaurants. It's the to-go containers. It's the cups.
So they can factor that into their pricing. But when you talk a factory and you're doing gloves or you're doing like PPE stuff or things that people are going to utilize, is it challenging price-wise to compete with people because they're looking at what's the least amount I can spend for this stuff because I just got to have it.
Yeah, you know, over the years, and part of building that extra warehouse space was buying a different way. We do a lot of direct buying, and that's how you become more competitive. But you still have corporate America, you know, against you. I had a deal the other day where we do business with a lot of corporations, obviously, on the local standpoint. Then somebody in corporate in Ohio makes a decision that they want, you know, a corporate company to take care of all their facilities. The next thing you know, like, you lost this business for a while. And it's always blindsided because you have this great relationship with this purchasing agent. You're taking care of them. You're delivering to them on a weekly basis. Then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled. Typically it doesn't last long. Those bigger companies, there's no relationships there. There's no Like, so we're selling like wipers on a factory line, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't go without them. You can't go without gloves when you're dealing with acetone.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a few times where that company just doesn't do the job that they promised, that then you get it back. But does it hurt for a while? Absolutely,
Yep.
It does hurt, and that's some of the struggles that you have.
Yeah, that service, like you talked about too,
Yes,
is really a big part of sales. You're not just selling a product. It's not supposed to be transactional. It's supposed to transact past that to a relationship. So I think one of the things that people miss, and something we talk about a lot, and we'll talk about this in personal relationships, but also in business, is relationships.
Correct.
Build relationships.
Correct.
You know, those are very valuable. Having a good rapport with your clients, knowing that if they need something, they can call you and it's just going to be done. I mean, we built our whole trucking company off that. Like, same thing you said. It was pricing. We never could compete with the pricing. Once they started failing service over and over again, started affecting them financially, started affecting the clients that might drop them. They're big fish. Then they come back and they're like, well, how much more is it going to cost me to use you guys so I don't ever have to deal with it? You give them a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, what all can you do?
Yes.
Right.
We want more because we just need, it streamlines. We save more in the long run by spending a little more upfront.
Yeah, I think that service is a big thing that a lot of businesses miss. And there's an opportunity to grow into that space, to be service minded, to be a servant to others. That just goes back to biblical standards, serving others. And to look at that, I think that we miss the point if we're focused on that one-time sell and not that build of a long-term relationship.
Sure.
And knowing and trusting in the people that you do business with, that you both are there for the benefit of each other. And so servicing them. As Shannon spoke about, them companies that get a nationwide contract, it's just going to be time before that person doesn't come through for them. That person's not reachable any longer. And then they come back and they're like, man, that one company that was there all the time for me, that answered my phone, I actually spoke to someone that I know, that I can see.
Or even when they get to speak to the owner, they're like, they know you and they have your number, and like the man or the person who's in charge can directly reach you, and they don't have to go through 3 layers. I know that's not always practical to a certain degree when you get to a certain level, but as a small business owner, it can be to the right people within that company. Like when I do business with like a big manufacturer, the owner of that manufacturer and his people that are right underneath him have got my phone number if they need to get a hold of me. Now, the guy on the assembly line doesn't have my number.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But the people that matter have got my number, and they can call me anytime, and I will get back with them in a reasonable amount of time. So I think that itself is very valuable, and people overlook that, you know?
And I think that's key to focus on building that relationship, especially when you talk about sales. And so if you have a sales team or a sales force, talking about building that relationship, solving a problem for your customer, not being the problem.
Right.
Not focused on just getting that one-time win, but building that lifelong relationship for
Because
them.
it might have just came to you as a one-time deal. But if you treat it as more than that, then it can can transact past that.
That's probably been one of my biggest ways to be successful, is being a problem solver. Like if you walk into account and they have no problems and everything's flowing smooth, why would you break that?
Yeah.
You know, like would you take that risk to save a little bit of money? Probably not. I wouldn't if everything's flowing good in my business. Maybe you give it a chance, but probably don't. But whenever you can dig into them a little bit and they tell you the problem and then you come with an answer, now you got your foot in the door, and then you can grow from there.
That probably comes a lot from your background as an industrial engineer, just having that mindset of how can you fix things, how can you make things more efficient, more smoother.
And it does, you know. I have an engineering degree. I worked for corporate America for a short period of time and didn't like the feeling of being owned. You know, I felt like you were capped, and I was doing good at a young age, and my father helped pay for pretty much all my school. My parents, I'm gonna say my parents. And he, you know, here he is, he paid for that degree, and then like 6 months out of the gate, I'm like going backwards, going to buy this business that's single owner operators, small, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you know, I use my degree a lot more than you think.
Right.
It's a generational thing, though.
The logistics, you know, and everything about it. And then after a few years, he's like, he understood a little bit. And then as you grow, your degree becomes more and more important. But yeah.
And I think that was bigger for your dad being an engineer also.
Correct.
Right.
So here's my son, you know, following kind of in my footsteps, and then like, oh, what happened here?
Well, we talked about this before, you know, because her father was a painter and all that stuff. And at one point in time, I think that entrepreneurship was frowned upon.
Right.
They looked at it like you worked for
Yeah.
yourself because you couldn't work for somebody else. And now it's like a mark of I don't know, I don't want to call it respect, but it's like a prideful thing. You know, to start your own company and from the ground up and build something and make it so much bigger than it was. That's not because I couldn't go work for somebody else. I could do this for somebody else. I intended to originally. You probably did too when you were going for your degree. I intended to go work for somebody else. But for me, I looked at it and said, well, why would I do this for somebody else if I could do it for myself? And instead of being capped by what somebody else can tell me, what their mind restrains them from being able to do, I can do whatever I want to do. I can make it as good or as bad as it, you know, I allow it to be. That's entirely up to me. So does your engineering degree help you a lot? Got to. Tremendously. Has to. As time
It
goes on.
just gives me a more logical way to think. You know, like I see on a day-to-day basis. Well, I'm good with numbers, number one. You know, so numbers are easy for me. And I mean, how is numbers not important when you're trying to operate a business?
Absolutely.
You know, and you're trying to be efficient, and you're trying to be as lean, you know, as you're possible to a certain extent. You know, you got employees, you're a small business, so like you can't trim everything down and make everybody unhappy. But you know, you got to look back and try to be as lean as possible. So lean manufacturing was definitely a big part of my degree.
So on the number side of things, and I know this probably is something that you're going to be able to answer a little bit more when it comes to the management side of things. When you talk about the C-suite, you talked about your CEO, your CFO, and you're wearing all these different hats. Do you find that being that authoritative figure when you're more the numbers guy can be hard sometimes? Like we joke because like she is an integrator and I'm more of a visionary, but I can be a hammer in a lot of places that she can't. Do you find yourself being able to be the hammer when he can't be the hammer?
So I was going to say that I feel Shannon is very great with numbers. I lack there. There's a big gap that I can improve on that. And the same with the visionary. Shannon has so much vision on things. And I would say, bring the aesthetics or the emotions to it, side of that. But I, coming from a corporate background, have pretty clear lines that are drawn, coming from a corporate background, that these are the lines that are put in place for us to have standards to operate within. And if not, then we have to talk about that accountability with that.
So Katie, talk about then you going from like the hospital setting and being over people to now kind of being your own boss and running the show. How do you, some of it's a little bit the same, I'm sure, but some of it is definitely different. So are you enjoying it? Are you finding challenges, or how is that going?
I think both of that.
Yeah.
I can't say that it's one way or the other. It's both at the time. Working in healthcare for over 20 years, that was my dream, to be a nurse.
Right.
I mean, all along. Did that, worked my way through while he was building his business, working my way up the corporate ladder to pretty much only having one nurse higher than me at the hospital at the time that I left the hospital. And being very set in guidelines. I had over 10 supervisors that reported to me that were nursing supervisors. And then to leave that to take on operations for our other divisions. But it gave me that background of how to manage people, how to lead people, and not be a boss. So there's a big difference between being someone's boss and being their leader, and being a humble or servant leader at that. And I think that the healthcare really gave me that, and just how to grow as a person and being personable with those that you lead. But also still having that accountability line of our standards and our policies and our procedures, and bringing that now to our business, developing policies, developing procedures, having guidelines for things, and organizing that has really helped both of our businesses grow and plateau and move on.
She brought a lot of good structure. You know, there's so many things that they don't teach you in school, you know, and 23, whenever I started fresh out of college, I mean, I didn't get a business degree, you know, and coming from all the structure, she wanted to reposition things, and some of it you did. She's very good with her meetings and just the whole structure time.
The organization, the SOPs, that's all stuff that's like a huge thing that people lack today, because everybody wants to shoot from their hip. Like I said earlier, it's a generational thing. Like our parents got good degrees, and their whole idea of success was to go work for another company, work their way up through that, have a good 401k, all that kind of stuff. And then I think our generation now looks at it like we want to build that for ourselves, you know, and we want to reset that. But having that structure, having that organization, having the background that you do in that, we had to just kind of figure that out. Like I know I need it, but I'm so busy wearing all the hats. It's hard to organize it, implement it, make sure somebody is held accountable to it. and I'm still doing this over here. Like for me, driving a truck plus running the trucking company plus doing payroll plus doing all my relationships with my clients and all this stuff. I mean, I even go around personally at Christmas. She builds gifts for all of them, and I go deliver hand-built gifts to every one of my clients' offices. You know, just as a token of our appreciation. Well, that day I may still have to jump in a truck or go work on one or do something like that, you know.
So when you were like in the hospital and nursing and stuff, did you still help Shannon kind of, or was pretty well, I do this and you do that?
I wouldn't say that I didn't help him. I wasn't involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, but managing the family at the home.
Right.
Taking care of all the things so that allowed him to be focused on the business is, I think, sometimes underspoken about women in the home setting.
Right.
And I know, Shelly, you were at home for a long time, and you can say that you're a stay-at-home mom, but you're doing a lot more, being that emotional sounding board. And also we would talk about things. He'd be like, this is how this went down today at work. How would that have been handled in corporate America?
Right.
And I would say this, and he's like, yeah, but a small business or an owner, local, you have to think differently.
Yes.
You have to respond differently than you would for corporate America. Because there's times that I'm like, well, that would have been a check mark. And after 2 check marks, sorry.
Call-ins, vacation time. You know, I did ask her a lot of that type of structure on in trying to find the middle of, well, I'm not corporate America. People do work for a small business for a reason. A lot of flexibility, you know.
Well, and people being expendable isn't always the case like it is in corporate
And
America.
in
They got
corporate
a stack of
America,
resumes.
yeah.
I might have just got this person, and I kind of got to figure out if we can work our way through this to some degree. I mean, there's some non-negotiables.
Correct, yes.
You know, when she used to hire somebody at the hospital, she'd go to HR and they'd plot people in front of her, right? And you just pick one. And I've been trying to push her to get a sales manager, and like I think she found hiring somebody isn't easy as what you think.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a risk. I mean, some are winners, some are losers, and some you invest in and they make you money, and others cost you money. So.
And you only have to go off of what they show you and what they tell you.
Not with corporate America. You get a background check. You get like fingerprints. You got
and you
drug
can go
tests.
through all that, but it's not always cost effective and
Correct.
time efficient. And you know, sometimes you got to move a little quicker than that. So I have to take what I have in front of me and make a judgment off of that. And sometimes people just straight lie to you.
I'm in corporate America. I had an HR firm that's recruiting for me to doing background screenings, bringing me the top 10% of the applicants that even came through. I didn't have to weed through the other ones. I just got the top 10, and from there I
Sometimes we
could
sit
pick.
down and we're like, all right, let's see what we got.
Yep.
These 3 right here. Which one are we? If you have 3, I got these 3 here. Which one's the best?
So totally different with that. It was scary, if I'm absolutely truthful about it. It was scary to leave corporate America. I was used to this X amount of salary. Time I left. When Shannon first started his business, we were young. Like he talks about, we didn't even have a house payment at the time.
Right.
We didn't have, I mean, we might have had a car payment, it might have been $150, you know, back then. We didn't have a kid in college and things like that our family was accustomed to and things. And to leave the salary that I left for maybe more, maybe less, depending on how the year went and things like that. It was really scary. It took a lot of faith and a lot of trust. We talked about it for years about me making that transition, and I never could. I just never could do it. There was some breaking moments that I was like, this is the time now.
What was that catalyst? What was that breaking moment?
Yeah,
What was the one that really broke the camel's back? Which one?
We were at a conference for Airmaster, the division that I run now.
That you were looking at the time, I assume
He
you
was-
were looking
he
at
owned it.
I've always
Yeah.
had a manager over it.
Okay.
I mean, I was active.
Yeah. So I would always go to the conference, and I'm not gonna lie, I got massages and I did the spas. I might have attended the golf, but I didn't take any of the classes. Like I was there for the dinners and all this nice stuff for about 10 years. I enjoyed that a little time. And so this year, our son's birthday was on that Friday night, and so we were going home, and we were gonna have 10 kids come over to our house and stay all night and stuff like that for his birthday. And I had a couple supervisors that called in at the hospital. We had managers working as nurses at the bedside, and I had to go in. And I'm just in tears, about to throw up, and like, what do I do? And Shannon's like, we have like 12 kids coming over. Like, there's no question. What are you doing? And I'm like, but I feel just that I need it to be there because that's the type of person I am. No one was saying, yes, Katie, you have to go to the hospital at all. And including my leader who said, Katie, I'm not asking you to make that decision. And she was not. But I felt when I had supervisors and managers were working the bedside that I should be there also to help support them in their work. And it just became, is it my family or is it my work? Like I'm choosing right now which one it is. And I never wanted to be in that position again. and that's what broke it. A couple weeks before that, we were at church, and a gentleman at work or at church was leaving his career as a sheriff and starting a business. And I was like, wow, that takes a lot of faith, because he's the breadwinner at his family, you know, and I'm like, wow, that takes a lot of faith to do that. Like, and his kids are older and does a lot of sports. And so I was like, man, that takes a lot of faith for them to do that. Both of them. For his wife to say, yes, great, do that. And for him to say, this could be something that trickles down and ruins my family or something. And he said, well, do you not believe in yourself? And I was like, oh, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't believe that I can do this. And that's where it really started, like, do I believe in myself? And Shannon always said, if you gave 50% what you give to corporate America to your own business, there's no way you would fail. And I was like, wow, yeah, because I'm giving 110 to corporate America.
Right.
She was giving a lot.
But
And so if
Mentally
I
and
just
physically.
gave half of that, then I'm good.
I heard you say something earlier that I wanted to ask you a question. Do you feel it's that you didn't trust yourself or know if you were capable of it, or that you were just very comfortable with that salary and comfortable with that position and comfortable with all the years
Oh,
you
I
put
love
in?
the title. Trust me. Even when we were like, I loved the title.
But you earned
Trust
the
me.
title.
You
It
did
wasn't
earn the
I
title.
did,
I mean, and it
yes.
came with a lot of time,
my God.
sacrifice,
It did.
Nights,
work,
weekends.
It did. It did.
on call.
Correct.
Yeah.
All of them time working up. And so leaving that
Yeah.
and knowing that if I ever went back, I would not have that again. I would have to start back again with that call, weekends, holidays.
Now, no one can take that from you. You have a degree that you could always go back to if you want to. I
Correct.
talk
Yes,
to,
yeah.
I'm like, I have a CDL. If I ever wanted to go jump in a truck, it's not like I will be without money if I ever had to.
I
But-
mean, you probably don't want me working bedside because it's been so many years.
But you're
But-
technically qualified. Yeah.
But technically. So leaving that title and that pay, what was my identity. It was
Yeah.
who I was. And to leave that was really hard. And I think that's different than an entrepreneur at a younger age when you're leaving and your apartment rent's due.
Yeah.
I have a mortgage for the house that we like.
Kids.
I have kids in a college that we help support.
Yeah.
Leaving all of that in that uncomfort zone was a lot of it.
Yeah.
Maybe 10% that I didn't believe in myself. And I had to say, why don't you believe in yourself? You should be your biggest cheerleader. My spouse is sitting there saying, do it.
Yeah, did
Why-
you support her really, really positively in that? Were you like, yes, please do this. I want you to do this. Like, you should do this. You'd be great for
Yeah,
it.
I mean, a door opened. I had an employee leave, and there was an opportunity there, and I was like, sooner or later, I'm gonna have to hire somebody new. You got to make a decision. And then when she actually made it, I was a little shocked because I didn't think she'd ever do it.
Yeah.
And she had to have a transition. She had to go from nursing to actually learn how to be a salesperson.
Yeah.
Which I had to do early on too. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know I had to be. It's being networking and being social, right, and trying to be friendly and give people your word. But no, I supported. She done great, and then she got some accounts, and I said, look, you just gave yourself a raise. And I
And I
said,
was
you know
like,
what? You'll
what?
get some more, and every time you do that, you're going to get another raise. And then I think the eyes started to kind of get a little bigger, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Start to see that ceiling.
So
of
then
this
did
is
you
hard to
like
go after.
selling stuff? There's kind of an addiction to selling stuff once you get going.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait a year to get 3%.
Yeah.
Correct, because in
Right.
corporate America, let's be honest,
Yes.
corporate America raises are between 3 and 5% a year. That's what you're expected.
Yeah.
And so I think that's different when you're an entrepreneur and your destiny is based on what you put into it. If you don't put anything and you still get maybe 1% business growth next year, or you don't get any, but that's what you put into it.
That's also a struggle from a small business to corporate America when we're trying to work with our employees too. And I have found that I've been able to give my employees at times too much, or I won't say too much, because I always gave them what I felt like they were worth. And if I gave them a lot, it was because I felt like they were worth a lot. What I will say is it didn't make the difference that I was hoping it would make.
Right.
There's a lot of people, money doesn't matter anymore. You can give them benefits, money. They want an environment that's awesome. They want a team. They want to be a part of something. They
Yes.
want to feel. They want to
Yes.
feel like they're a part of something bigger than just them, and that you don't just appreciate them by giving them a paycheck, but you are appreciating them by this culture that you're creating that they want. Which is a crazy thing for me, because I'm always just like, let's just get it done. Like, I just got things done. But in the same breath, I was creating a culture for my family. You know what I mean? I was showing my kids how you work hard, how you earn things, how you can achieve these things through the hard work. So I'm creating that in my family. I need to create that within my company. So when it comes raise time, I know we had talked, there was like a conversation like, this is what I want to give. And you're like, well, that's not what corporate America does. And you're like, I'm a small
Right.
business and I value these people. So let's actually run the numbers and see if it makes sense for me to give them this or if it's going to cost me too much to do. Was that a struggle between you guys? Did you have a fight about that?
I don't think we fight about that. It's more a discussion based on that. We have drastic different views on things in a lot of the business, and maybe most of that is numbers based, and mine is more that emotion or sound or policy based on that. But when we really look at that, I believe that when you talk about an employee or a coworker, there's so much to be said about the total benefit package, and that's more than compensation than your payroll. Than your paycheck that you're bringing home every day. That's one thing, but the people that you work with, the leader of your team, the culture that you have in there, the teamwork that you have, that's what people thrive on more.
Right.
The same, right? Like, who just wants a spouse? You want someone to live with, right? You want someone to do life with.
Correct.
There's two different things in that, and so I think when we focus on just compensation, and don't get me wrong, everyone likes compensation, everyone wants a big paycheck, but there's a bigger picture to that too, and creating that culture is very important, and I think that we miss that a lot of times. And so I push for that, and I push to fill that gap and thrive in that opportunity to create this culture and environment for our teams.
I don't know about you, but I think probably one of the most valuable things for me, in my opinion, is the flexibility that we offer. I think you can't hardly put a price on flexibility.
It's more valuable
Right.
than dollars of raises.
Just this morning, I need to take my kid to the doctor at 2.
Right.
Can I come in early? You know, we provide a lot of flexibility, and the routes do allow that. You're probably on some schedules, but you probably have some flexibility on
I
start
don't have
times.
my foot on my guys' throats.
You
I
know?
say that I have expectations, and they're a little loose. Got to give them a little bit of room,
Yeah.
but as long as they follow those, it's like, can you guys be out of the DC by 6:30?
Yeah.
Most of my guys are either between 4 and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
All I ask is that you're out of there by 6:30. That's just before day crew comes in, and you're taking stuff that was dispatched at night.
Right.
If you come in when day crew's in and they're going, why is this stuff that was dispatched at night not gone yet? That's going to be a problem for me. That's all I'm asking you to do, and I leave that up to you. You have to put yourself to bed in time to get up to be gone, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you have to
Yeah.
leave room for margin of error.
Yeah.
But I actually sat down with people and was like, what do you want? 3 days vacation, extra vacation time meant more to them than the raise I was going to give them, but it would cost me half of what the raise would have cost me. So here I thought that was more valuable to them, but it wasn't. The extra 3 days with vacation time or flexibility to take a day here or there, they wanted that, and meant more to them than
Yes.
raises did.
Yeah.
So I missed that too early on. It was something I had to.
Like, we offer flexible start time. It's about an hour and a half window. Come in at this time, 6 in the morning if you want. Come in at 8 if you want. If you need to start your day at 8:30 that day, that's fine. Just get the job done.
Right.
No, on the flip side of that, on ours, like, the day might be longer then. Depending
Yeah,
on how
you're
you guys
gonna get
are,
off.
but
You're
you might
still
get
gonna
off
put
early.
yes, correct.
So some guys
But
are like, I need to get
people
off
thrive
early,
on that.
come in early. Like you said, the guy's like, I want to be off at 2:00. Okay, well, if you want to work a full day, work a full day? Well, yeah, then come in at like 4:30,
Yeah.
and then you'll definitely be off by then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you come in at 6:30, you're probably gonna work till 5 or 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
If you want to have donuts with your kid at 7:30 at school, then we can make that happen too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple. And when you're punching that time clock, those are all the things that you miss, or you miss the baseball game or the basketball game that is at 5 o'clock because you're just got home from work, or those dinners and things like that.
When you're working for corporate America, there's a lot of miss.
How was the dynamic in your guys' relationship different from you being the entrepreneur and you being in corporate America, now both of you being entrepreneurs in the same house?
So before, I think when we had a lot of discussions about work, I would bring the aspect, but it was really 100% what he wanted to take the next day and do. Because what he did at work was his work. He might ask my opinion or ask my advice, but what you took from that was really what he wanted to. Now it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to discuss it, and we're going to have to come to an agreement.
Yeah.
It's not just like you still get to choose.
Yes.
On certain things like that. So I think that has changed a little bit, but it's also allowed me to open my eyes, because I was so black and white with policies and procedures that I was held accountable to, that I had to hold my teams accountable to now, like, wow, really, like, let's look at that deeper. What would you want? And to think through them things. And so I think that has opened my eyes to see really, how does small business, how does a independent owner operator, how do you look at things, and how do you really affect your team positively on that?
Because I've learned too, like with us, it's helped too that you have a little bit of a longer established relationship, I think. it would be hard. I thought it would be hard for us to be entrepreneurs right out of the gate, like year 1 of marriage. So being that like we're like at year 10 to 15, you know what I mean? And I've always told Bobby, like, when at this point you need mad respect and mad trust, because you have to respect that we both have an opinion, and we have to respect each other's opinion and then choose which one's the best, because we both have our company and our livelihood at the forefront.
Yeah. And I
So-
think when you have opinions, they're not going to agree. Like, we
Right.
were talking about something the other
We
night.
have different views. a
Yeah,
lot.
we
Yeah.
have different.
Quite
And he's,
frequently.
I didn't marry
Yeah.
I
And
didn't
he's
marry
like-
myself. You
he's
know what I
like,
mean?
I feel like you're not supporting this. And I'm like, no, I'm supporting you. I'm just telling you this other aspect that I see too.
Yes.
Like, that's part of me being supportive, is saying like, well, this could happen, and so what do we, like, what is the
Yeah.
plan if that does
That's
happen?
the logic versus emotion
Yeah,
argument. And so usually couples tend to bring both aspects of that heavier on one side than the other.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm heavy on the other side. I know that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We both have value that we put into that.
Yes.
His being a visionary, like, hey, I see this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, well, what about that? So we have a game plan.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. But if it was early on in our marriage, I think that would have been really detrimental either to our marriage or both of the businesses,
Yeah.
because we wouldn't have been able to feel comfortable with that uneasement
Yeah.
of conversation. Because
Right.
in the first couple of years, you're still in that honeymoon. You want to make everything happy.
Right.
Well, and there's the very difficult conversations you got to have.
Hard.
At time, especially in
She
business.
has to fail to grow. Like, I've failed a bazillion times, and you gotta, I tell my kids is that you're gonna make mistakes, and trying not to make the same mistake twice is what's gonna get you, everywhere you want to go. If you just learn from it, you make mistakes all day and be just fine. So there's times that she'd bring something to the table. I'm like, well, I've tried that. I mean, been doing it for 18 years, right? Tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Now, maybe it was 5 years ago, maybe it works now.
Yeah.
And if she said, well, I really want to try that, I'd be like, hey, you know what? You go ahead, and you're either one or two things going to happen. You're going to fail and you're going to learn, or you're going to prove me wrong. One of the
Yeah.
two. So.
And I know.
And those are always fun.
But see, I've grown to mindset where I accept that, and I challenge her to do that. I
Yeah.
challenge her to prove me wrong, and when she does, I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I appreciate it now. I didn't always, and so I appreciate that challenge. I appreciate pushing her and watching her push me back. And so then I'll challenge her to do things just off of a principle that she knows that she can accomplish it, even if I didn't. And so it's not that I didn't think she wants to approve something that she was able to do that I couldn't, but that you're not going to tell me that it can't be done. If I truly believe it can, I'll get it done. And I challenge her because I'm
Yeah.
like, I want it. I need it done. I want it done. And if you think you can do it and I
Great,
couldn't,
yeah.
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
show
And
me.
we're
Yeah.
competitive enough, and you
Uh-huh.
probably are too, that it makes you push the other one though, because I'm going to be just as good or as better as you are, and then you know what I mean. We kind of go back and forth, so it's
You're like, oh, you told me I couldn't do it, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I
So
can.
I'm very competitive.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
think one of them was having team meetings. So I meet with the Airmaster team weekly. Weekly, I meet with them, even our Columbia team. And in the beginning, I was like, hey, Shannon, maybe you should try this. Maybe you should try this. And he's like, I don't see how that's going to work. I have tried it. It just doesn't work with my timing. He was wearing multiple hats, and so he couldn't do it. And it was right. Like, that was not able to become situated because of the multiple hats he was wearing. When I took over Airmaster, and I was like, this is the priority for me, is to meet with these teams every Monday morning. I meet with one guy at 7, I meet with the other one at 9, like every Monday morning.
Corporate's all
Routine.
about meetings as it is
And
anyway.
that's the better structure I was
Yeah.
talking. She
Yeah.
has way better structure.
Yeah.
And
She
we
was
actually had our Columbia team, and he said, I feel more like a team with you guys. Like, he sees me every other week. I go to Columbia at least every other week to
Yeah.
meet with him in person, to discuss things, reorganize our warehouse and things, make sure it's going there. But just having that meeting set every Monday morning, he's like, I feel more like the team.
I have to
And
check
that
myself
alone-
on
that has
that's
to make you feel
culture.
so good.
Like,
yeah,
it wasn't about the raise that year.
Right.
It was about the culture that
Yeah.
we brought
Right.
that meant the most to him. One of our other coworkers, he once told me that what he loves best about the business is he can choose if he wears shorts or pants to work.
Like
I
crazy.
was like, what are you talking about? Like, are you crazy right now? Like, hold on. I still make you wear a polo shirt. And he's like, yeah, but I can choose if I wear shorts or pants given the day. And I was like, I don't understand, like, where this is coming. He's like, well, I worked for a company before, and I always had to wear pants unless it was above 95 degrees out. And I'm like, well, it's 105 and I'm wearing pants today. But men are different and what they want to wear is different. And he's like, you just let me choose and I'm like, long as there's not holes and they're not sagging down to your kneecap, like pick what you want to wear. And he said that mattered most to him.
That's
Well, you don't get that in corporate America.
Right.
Because I'm going to give you a dress code and you're going to wear what I tell you.
But
to
if
wear.
he's happy, if your employees are happy, the better
yes.
they're going to do for you.
That-
Because you can
maybe
attract
that-
them
Yes.
through
Yeah.
money and benefits, but how do you get them to stay?
Right.
How do you
right.
keep them there?
Yeah.
You know, and like you just mentioned, that structure, I've struggled with that too. That we started monthly meetings and then things got busy and then we got off the monthly meetings. Because I was taking guys to Cracker Barrel or I'd take them, you know.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And we would do that. Well, that's sagged off. So now I have my ops manager and he kind of gets with everybody daily. But little things like I've got multiple trucks that are very identical. But guys like their in particular truck, even though really they're all the same. If that one breaks and I put them in another one or we're waiting for this one to get fixed, they're throwing a fit. I'm like,
yeah.
I just put you in the exact same truck. I like that truck. It does this a little better. It's like this a little bit. And I'm like, they're the same. They're the same year. They're one VIN number different. Like they're the same truck. But to them that matters
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
And so.
But it's almost like your kid's bedroom, though. Like this is my space.
That's
This
true.
belongs to me.
But
and-
I'm like, okay, so I have to like hurry up and get this taken care of to get that truck back to this guy because I want him to be happy. I want him to have his truck, you know.
Yeah.
But that it was crazy to me that a lot of realizations to things that are important to people that maybe just weren't important to us. So we just didn't think they were important to everybody else, but they are.
Yeah.
And generationally they are.
Yeah.
Like people our age don't hold things as heavy as people that are in their 20s.
And that's being a problem solver again. Like your employee wanted something, and if you want him to work hard for you, you're gonna try to solve that problem, right? So
How crazy how simple it can be sometimes. Pants or shorts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was just like,
I'm like,
that
what
made
can I
you
give?
happy?
It's like,
I'm so
simple until the
Yeah.
the truck part has to come from another country. You know?
or it's $5,000 or
They
something.
don't
That's
make
what
it
it is.
anymore.
Yeah, no, then that's a cost that a
So-
lot of them don't see, especially on my end of things. Like just to make you happy might cost me $6 or $8 grand, and that was just to make you happy. That truck could have sat for months, and this truck was perfectly fine, and I had no need for that truck. It was an extra, but your happiness means a lot to
Yeah.
me.
Right.
So that
Exactly.
fix might cost me $8,000 just to make sure you're happy. So I could have gave you a raise that would have cost me less than that. I could have gave you vacation days that would have cost me less than that. But that was what was important to you. So that's what I chose to put the money in and invest in to make you happy. So I invested in your happiness. But I'm sure you guys run into that. If it isn't pants, it's probably equipment you're using or vans they're driving or routes they get to take or like you said, flexibility in the time they get to start and stuff like that.
We try to be as accommodating as possible, and then there's sometimes that it is what it is, and you know, like we have to go do things we don't always want to do, but we also do live by the policy that I wouldn't ask you to do something I wouldn't do.
Right.
You know, I mean, we in our business we change urinal screens, we do different things, you know, and I imagine coming from healthcare to saying, oh, now I'm going to stick my hand in a urinal probably wasn't the most attractive, right?
It was. I was
But-
so excited.
But you know, there's the pluses and the minuses of
She's like, I know the gloves for
work
this. I know the gloves.
work to life balance, right? And so she works from home part time, goes to office part time. I mean, she worked from home yesterday. I mean, you didn't get to do that in corporate America either. So
Nope.
So this is a
Not
question we
even
get
during
asked.
COVID, I didn't get to work
Yeah.
from home.
This is a question we get asked a lot. So I'm going to ask you guys, how do you then turn it off when you get home so you're not always talking about business? Because I know it is hard for us. We talk about business a lot. So how do you guys then turn it off to...
There's not an off.
Yeah.
And I think people fail to see that. It's not really an off. We do have boundaries. Like last night, we were talking probably till 6 o'clock. I was in the office working at home till 6. He was sitting at another table. And then finally we're like, okay, let's just go have dinner now. But there's not that off. With an entrepreneur, you always have to be innovating. You always have to be thinking about the next day. We were
You
even
just
talking.
are. It's not a.
Yeah.
It's a subconscious thing.
I guess I would compare it to like children. Right now we have no kids at home this week because Clayton's on a mission trip and our daughter's in New York. I'm still a mom.
Right.
I'm still thinking about mom things, right?
Right.
I'm scheduling him for something next week and things. Doesn't mean I turn off being mom just because there's no kids by me.
Right.
And it's the same as being an entrepreneur. Just because I'm not at the office doesn't mean it's off, but doesn't have to be my identity 100% of the time.
Right.
So I think there's time to have that discussion. Driving up here today, we were just having some discussion in the vehicle, but we had that before. But I think there are times that you just need to let's put the phones away.
We call it the mute button. So it's not an on and off
Yeah.
switch. It's just I got to mute it for a little
Yeah,
bit. Because
yeah.
we do we might talk all day
Exactly.
today. We'll go pick the kids up and we'll mute that for a couple hours while we're with them. And then
Right.
when they're doing their own thing and they're all
Yeah.
playing, we might bring
Have
something up
conversation,
again.
yeah.
And then we mute it again until everybody's in
Yes.
bed. So it's
Right.
never on and off.
Correct.
But I do know some people that are like, you know what, 7 o'clock, no business, or I go on vacation. Nope. When's the last time you took a vacation that you did zero business while you were on
Yeah, I
vacation?
mean, I'm always checking emails.
Emails,
When you
anything.
walked in the door, I was answering email, but that's fine. Like, I would rather be checking an email right there than I would be sitting punching that time clock.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
You
That's
know.
it's the trade-off. It's
I-
what we sacrifice to have the other, the one for the other. you know?
Correct. And I think you missed that. So if you're talking about being an entrepreneur or working for corporate America, we just went on a 2-week vacation. Yes, I answered emails, answered some phone calls and things like that, coordinated some stuff. But if I was working for corporate America, I would have came back to 600 emails
Yeah.
on Monday. And I still would have been responsible for all of that. I was still answering calls in corporate America. That still happens. Corporate America doesn't turn off as soon as you leave the
Right.
office unless you're punching a time card. But where you move up the chain of ladder, I was still answering calls for corporate America.
But see,
at
most
9
people think it's
a.m.
not their problem anymore. Like ultimately, it's not their
Yeah.
problem. Whereas in this hat that you're wearing now, it's your problem. So you don't answer that email and you don't get back to that client, it's your problem.
Yeah.
Like that problem will be here now. That problem will be there later. It's going to be worse later.
Correct.
Whereas now you're like, well, I'm on vacation. Don't talk to me. I'll deal with the 600 emails when I get back, and you have to deal with the 600 emails when you get back. But ultimately, whatever fell through the cracks or happened, is it your fault? Yes. Is it your problem? Not ultimately. Ultimately, it's their problem. In this case, it's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that people, it's an unrealistic expectation as entrepreneurs that they think the number one reason they get in, they want to work for themselves so they can set their own schedule.
Right.
You have clients that set your schedule.
Yeah.
You know, you have expectations from people that you're doing
Correct.
business with, employees. You have all these other things that make your schedule for you. And I will promise you, a lot of times it's tenfold harder than somebody just telling you what to do and you taking care of that one thing.
I think until you realize and you're able to change. So while we were on vacation, I mean, I worked an hour or two every morning. I was sitting at the beach though, and
Yeah.
it allowed me to do that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Where before that might have not have been possible.
Right.
A couple months ago, my daughter had something going on in Jefferson City. So guess what? I made sales calls in Jefferson City that day and met her for lunch.
Yeah.
You know, things like that I couldn't have done before. Did I still have to work? Yes.
Right.
But I worked it into a schedule that was flexible for me. Or if I have to do something with the kids, maybe I'll make calls around their school and then go to a school event.
Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy the ownership of what I put in, I get out. If I decide I want to be lazy and I don't put anything in it, guess what? I'm not going to get anything out. And that's okay. And that's me taking accountability for that. If I decide I want to put 115% in for these couple months, I'm going to get 140 back.
Right.
Where in corporate America, you don't have that. You put 110% in every day.
Yeah.
Gotta have accountability on yourself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the only reason why people, I mean, now I look back, like, the only way you're gonna fail is if you just don't get up and go to work.
Correct.
You don't take action.
Yeah.
You be
don't-
passive.
I mean, you really promote the mind, the body, and everything. I know you work out. I do the same, and I do it at 9 a.m. because my family like starts at 4:30, where I have to start doing stuff with a child or this and that. So, and there was times I used to work out at 8 p.m. and work all day, but I go to work at 7 typically, 3 or 4. I don't take a lunch, so I go to work out at 9, and it gives me time. Sometimes you go into work and you have that first little hour where things hit the fan, and you know what, I think in there. So people are like, oh, you had to go work out, and you know what, actually in a way I'm working.
Right.
Am I helping my body? I am, but my mind, I'm getting my mind right, and I'm thinking all the time when I'm in there. And then there's times we discuss something, and you know, like we're at different views, and I'll go work out and I kind of think about it a little bit and give me a little time, and I come back with a lot better answer than if I was
Correct.
just shooting off my hip.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And there's been like actual studies done about the chemicals that you release in your muscles, the endorphins and everything that you're the things that you're releasing within your muscles that help your thought process and stuff work. And I talk to people about that because they think it's a vanity thing, and I'm like, no, it's actually a byproduct. So because I was so just mentally strained and I needed a release, going to the gym, you put your headphones on. For me, I put my headphones on, listen to music. I am not in there to socialize with people. Half the time I don't even socialize with her when we're in there, even though we're working out together. Like, it's eyes, nods, things like that. We're not having conversations. And I'm thinking while I'm listening to music and I'm pushing weights. And the harder the music, the harder I'm pushing, the heavier the weight. as time goes on, if you combine that with a healthier lifestyle, now you start growing muscles. And I'm like, it is the ultimate testament to somebody's discipline and consistency. If you want to start something, if you want to start business, if you start at the freaking gym, go work out, create a discipline that you at least, it's like a training ground for understanding how you have to work in this world. And all you're doing is going and pushing weights. Just do it every single day. Do it for 10 days, do it for 100 days, do it for 1,000 days, do it for 5,000 days. If you can stick to that and you've trained your mind to do that, you can stick to anything. That's where it starts.
Because that's dedication.
Builds
And
confidence.
when you clock in and clock out at a job and you don't like that job, you go get a different job.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily the same thing when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You just don't be like, okay, well, I'm going to start something different now
Yeah.
because I don't like that anymore. No, you're still dedicated to it. You still drive, and you have to find ways to reunite that passion. And that's what you do when you work in a gym, because who wants to go work out every day for an hour?
And your
I don't.
marriage. We talk about that in the marriages too, reuniting the passion.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just for like when you're talking about couplepreneurs, people that are in business together, they're doing business together. It could be just one, or it could be both, like you guys. The struggles that you get, because I mean, sometimes at the end of the day, you're mentally tapped.
Right.
Yes.
And I have to reserve a portion of that. We talk about the mute button versus the on-off. I have to reserve a portion of that for her. Like, just because I'm angry at all this that went on doesn't mean I'm angry at her. You know, I still have to go give that portion of my love and my life to her at the end of the day, right?
Because
And
you
that's-
still have to keep that spice and
You
stuff.
do.
Because when you are married, not only are we working together, but I do love you, and so you know what I mean. You dress up, and you want to feel good about yourself, but also to make the marriage good and
Commonly,
successful.
They become collateral damage. The spouse becomes what gets hit by the shrapnel from you exploding all the time.
Because it's the person you can trust, the person that's going to be there. So they're become your sounding board, right? Because you feel like you could say anything because they're still going to be there.
Right.
Sometimes we even do that to our children, that toxic circle that you can start because you know they're going to still be there.
Yeah.
But if you talk to an employee like that, they're not, right?
Right.
If you talk to a customer like that, they're not. So
And
you
over
talk
time,
to
your spouse won't either if you're not careful.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And your children will develop relationships that are not healthy any longer.
Yeah.
And so I think that you always have to be mindful. I'm always like, would we talk to a customer like that? Would we talk to an employee like that? But we're talking to each other like that. Why? Why are we doing that to the people that you love the most?
Did you guys come across any obstacle where you're like, you know, we have to do better at this. We have to figure out a better way to communicate, because either you're just so buried in what you're doing that I'm just hearing all the bad side of things and it's starting to pull me down, or you are dealing with corporate America when you were doing that and it's like everything you have going on there. Do you ever get to the point where you're just like, I don't want to hear about it. Like, I don't want to hear about that. Like, let's talk about baseball. Let's talk about the kids. Let's talk about what's going good in our life.
No, I think our marriage has always been rainbows and sunshines. I mean, he doesn't get an opportunity to speak on that. It's been rainbows and sunshines all along.
He's happy to have me.
For me, it's better patience. Like, you have a rule you talk about all the time, your push back three times rule.
Yes.
For me, it's like repeating myself 3 times.
Okay.
You know, and then my patience get a little slim. And in all reality, it's her asking questions. Again, me being comfortable with what I do because I've done it for 18 years, or coming into a new field. And I do let that get the better of me sometimes. And it doesn't help anything because then she shuts down, you know. But it's something that I'm aware of, try to work on. But yeah, for me, it's definitely trying to increase the patience.
Yeah, and I think that just having that insight, knowing that has made a game changer in our relationship too. Just him being aware that I'm asking because I want to know and because I'm trying to learn and grow, and him being aware of that and self-aware that is something that he has an opportunity to lean into has helped. Just knowing yourself.
Right.
We always talk about that, right? Knowing yourself, knowing your own gaps where you need to grow helps you to do better at that. For mine, actually, if I was completely 100% honest, ours was our family and not work aspects. For a long time, I actually put our children before our marriage. And if I'm 100% honest, it was a point in our marriage that Shannon said, I'm going to be here for the rest of our lives.
When they move
One day they're going to move out. And I'm like, they're not. What are you talking about? These babies.
got a basement.
Well, now they're living in New York.
Yeah.
And so they are. And I was like, I didn't understand at that time that your spouse really is that person that's going to be there forever. One day your children
When you say you're doing life, when I said I do, I'm doing life.
Yeah. And that was hard. And it took me that I know the time we were out by our pool.
Teenagers, man, you're about there. You got many roads
I
as
know.
the teenager aspect.
And it was like, I was like putting our children before him because I got to be mom, right?
Yeah.
I have to be mom. I have to do these school events. I have
They
to do
need
these
me.
things. Yes. Physically, mentally, emotionally, all of these things that I'm doing for our children, I'm doing for us.
Right.
But I was really forgetting to put him ahead. And when we were taking a marriage class, when we were really young and getting married, our church had a marriage class and we took it. And there was an older couple. At the time, I say older, they were probably 55, 60. But to me, they were old. They owned a small business in our hometown, a funeral home. And I really looked up to them. They led a lot of activities in our church, very active in our church. They had great children that had grown, done business. Their children are very successful too. And I was like, why are they in our marriage class? Like, what do they have going wrong? Like, they're the perfect epitome. What the wife said was, I should have taken vacation with just my husband. She said, we would sit at the dinner table. We'd talk about business. What are we doing with our business? Where are we growing? What are we doing with that? Who's picking who up from soccer? Who's picking who up from practice? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, now our kids are grown. And I'm like, do I want to sit across this table with this person? What are we talking about? Because there's no more kids to pick up. There's no more business to be done anymore. Because they were getting ready to sell their business. And I'm like, ooh, that's really going to happen to us one day?
Peel all the layers away and what's left.
Yes.
At the core, is there anything left, or did it just
Yeah.
destroy it all?
Yeah.
We didn't realize it.
Blessing, this marriage is still strong and stuff like that.
Right, right.
But it really, she said, if I could go back, all of our vacations were based around our kids' activities and not us. And she said, if I could go back, I would do a vacation with us. So we do that every year. Our kids might have a big vacation one year together. Our kids, this year we went to Dominica with our kids together, took them for a week. And our son had baseball that we took vacation with down to Alabama. And we might do something small. This weekend we're going to go to the lake, just him and I. That's not a big, great
Well, those-
vacation,
no,
but
those are
them small.
Taking the time
Yeah.
to just be the
Yes,
two
just
of
to
you.
us.
Yeah.
And then maybe another year, we have a big vacation, just him and I.
Right.
And the kids might just go to the lake for the weekend.
Right.
I would take 20 micro vacations over one big vacation
Yeah.
year. If you said you had to trade them, I would take those micro 1 to 3 day vacations any day of the week over one big week-long vacation.
But I think as couples, you forget to do it just you two. And
Right.
it's always with the kids.
That's true.
Back to that the rim to rim that we're looking to do. A good friend of mine, he made the comment that those who suffer together stay together. So there's definitely going to be some suffering out there.
There has
On
to
my
be.
part,
No,
probably more than his.
But he made the comment. It's a hunting buddy. You know, we go probably 6 of us now, and you can go in a little deeper on that. But he said we go to the bar, we could have our drinks, do all this, and you know what? We won't remember anything. We're gonna sit out here and we're gonna hunt. We're gonna suffer and climb these mountains and do all this, and you're gonna remember every single bit of it. And it stuck with me. It's probably been 5 or 6 years ago. We did. There was just 3 of us on this one. Backpack in, you know, and you're staying in snow and all these different things, and you're working as a team just to keep your camp going and all that. But it just stuck with my brain, so I appreciate him giving that comment because it means a lot. And
I've heard it before in the fitness industry. You know, they talk about working out together, spouses where we struggle together. You know, we stay. And I'm like, it's so much deeper than that. It really, truly is, because when you talk about struggles, like our mental struggles, we go through a lot of things that we try to keep in, because we don't want them to feel the hurt that we are dealing with. And so we just deal with it. But if we would just reach out and say, hey, I'm dealing with this and I need your perspective, or maybe I just need your presence. I don't need you to say anything. I just need you here for me. But we don't allow them always in to do that. So I think that, I think being big enough to be able to do that and know it's not challenging your masculinity to be emotional like that or to have that side of things is pretty big for couples, and they don't do it enough. Like you said, struggle. Like, why should I? We did this together, right? We're in a relationship that we said we're going to build a family around, and businesses and life and so on and so forth. But I'm going to struggle alone.
Just be humble, to be honest about how you're feeling or what's going on. I think speaks wonderful in your family and also in business, both of them. Coworkers want to work for leaders who are humble, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to work for the leader that's up on the solo throne? No one. They need a humble leader that's going to say, hey, maybe I don't know that. Let me see what I can do to figure that out. When I first took over Airmaster, I worked for about a month and a half straight doing the job that I have coworkers to do. Because I wanted to know the task. I wanted to understand their struggles, where the barriers were, so I could help alleviate them for them. I couldn't just sit there with a chart and tell them what to do and not to do and say, fix this. I actually had to see it and do it myself. And so I think a lot of times just being humble enough to do the same work that others do can take you a long way.
And listening, just listening to people, not always having to put in comments or anything, but being a good listener and soundboard is
Listen to hear,
spectacular.
listen to respond. I hear him say something that he had to really work on was patience. What's something that you think you had to really work on with him?
I think it was that putting him first above everything else.
Putting him first?
Yeah, above our children. Because we came into a marriage, I already had a daughter, and so I think that was ingrained in me that she was the number one, and to flip that script was pretty difficult for us later, or for myself, and to move past that.
Standing, there was a couple times it's like, I just want you to stand behind me when I make a decision. Like, can't be a parent and make a decision and you want to come trump me, and that was that conversation she was leading, is that like, I'm going to be here forever. She's only going to be here for so many years.
Right.
And I mean, I got to be in check and be making the right things. I can't be giving bad advice, but like, it's a team, right?
Right.
Correct.
There was a conversation, I can't remember if it was with an Apple or what company it was. Might have been Amazon. Actually, I think it was Amazon. But anyway, he was talking about how when you're in a partnership, whether it be business or a relationship, and somebody makes a decision that you don't always agree with, you pick one. And when you pick the decision of the other person, you're in it wholeheartedly. I'm not in it to prove you wrong. I'm not in it to see it fail and go, see, I told you it was going to fail.
Right.
I say, okay, this is what we're going to go with, and I'm going to help you succeed through that. Now, if we fail together, and I'm not going to be sitting here going, see, I told you that wasn't going to work. We committed to this decision together.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't do that. You have your decision, you have your opinions, and then he's like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And you're like, okay, well, I'll help you. But it's really just
to watch
counterproductive
them.
just to watch
Correct.
you fail.
Yes.
That's something people do in their marriages every single day.
Exactly. Well,
It's so destructive. And I'm
that's
like, why
why
are
the
you...
divorce rate's higher than 50%, right there. Because
And then you add doing business together and the struggles and stresses of business, it's astronomical. People don't, they're, and I'm not to say that if you're on your second, third, fourth marriage that, that's necessarily a bad thing. What I'm saying is if you would actually do some self-reflection, there might be a common denominator there that was causing some of those problems, but a lot of people won't look in the mirror. It took me looking in the mirror and going, you're the fucking problem, to change myself to be a better husband and to be a better version of myself for my kids and for my business and for my employees and all that. Like, I was the problem.
Right.
She's not the problem. They're not the problem. I'm the freaking problem.
Well, we've known that, Bobby.
That's fine. But you know what? Nobody else would tell me.
No, he told me.
Yeah. Until I looked in the mirror and he told me. The guy in the mirror said, "You're the problem."
Right.
So,
Yes.
and I think that's a struggle that is real within entrepreneurship, especially in couples. And like I said, say he was just in
I'm
business and you were
guilty
still.
of
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's nothing that you accomplish. It's something you work on all the time. And so people think that you get somewhere, you make it, or you should be evolving and growing every single day.
Right.
Yes.
All the
every
time. There's always somewhere to go.
Well, and if you're not looking at yourself, there's no way you're going to be a better leader for your coworkers. There's no way you're going to be a better parent for your children or a better spouse. You can't say, well, once I become a better spouse, I'm going to become a better leader. Or once I become a better parent, I'm going to be a better spouse. It has to start from within. I have to be a better person. And then all of them will fall in line. You can't fix the other one.
Yeah.
It's like a broken chain. You have to fix the link first,
weakest
which is
one.
you.
Yeah, it's the one that's going to break. What's a key piece of advice that you would give for people that are in business, or like I said, rather it was just one of them or both of them, a key piece that you think would be helpful for them to work on so that their marriage doesn't fall to the demise of their business?
Their marriage?
Yeah.
As far as the marriage, I mean, we all want to be successful, but you can't let the business own you. I mean, if kind of like, my daughter right now, she's working her tail off, right? But she's not married and different things. But I'm sitting there saying, like, how do people do what you're doing and hold a marriage down?
Right.
How do you work 60, 70 hours a week, and then you're getting off work and you got to go to a client, go to dinner, like literally not coming home till maybe 8 or 9 o'clock, and you have a family? Like, how do people do that? So, like, me, it's work-life balance, man. I like to be very active. I mean, we all could work harder and make more money. I mean, I could. I definitely can. But I like to have that good balance. I mean, I like to be with my family and do things and travel and explore. And I see a lot of super successful people. I mean, have hundreds of millions of dollar companies. That business owned them. That made them happy. They liked that challenge, and that was them. You know, that wasn't for me. So you do need to find what is for you. And I do find a lot of those people that have those successful aren't married.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And it's not to say that that's
So-
wrong or right.
so-
It's
no,
all
it's
what
not.
we want.
What do you
Right.
want?
What do you want?
Know, what do you want, and what makes you happy? Because I believe in being happy. You know, if you're not happy, then who wants to not be happy?
Right. You
Well,
only
our
get one
version-
shot.
And our version of success all looks different. Like you said, we know people too, $100 million companies, they're married, don't have kids.
Mm.
Awesome. You know what I mean?
Gave their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I chose to have a family. To, that's not to say I can't have hundreds of $1 million company also, but I
Sure.
promise you I wouldn't have a very good relationship with my kids if I did. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just all about choices, like you said. And it's a work-life balance that's chosen. Like how much work, how much life, you know, personal life do you want to have?
And if you're happy, you'll find success. So, like, if you're worried about crossing that line to do a business, you're probably wanting to cross that line because you're passionate in it. If you're passionate in it and you're doing everything else, I think all the pieces are going to fall in place. You'd have to not get up in the morning and not work. And if you're doing that, you're not passionate about what you're doing. And did I go through high school saying I was going to sell toilet paper for a living? No, not even close. You know?
Right.
But I found something, and I did. It was challenging at first, and then you try to grow something, and then you become comfortable.
I think the best piece of advice would be to be humble and still have accountability to yourself. So humble enough that you'll do any job that you ask someone else to do, whether that's in your marriage, your children, or at work. Doing the job that you're asking others to do. Because if you're not willing to do it yourself, how can you expect others to ever do that? And holding yourself to the same accountability as others. I always pride myself in that I hold myself to the same standard I'd ever hold my children to do, or I hold coworkers to do.
It's like leading by example.
Yeah,
Strictly by example.
yeah,
I gotcha.
I think so.
And you think that's played a big role in your relationship and in your work life?
I think so. When we look at our daughter, we were like, gosh, how did she do this? But then just like reflecting back, it's like, well, she just followed the example that you guys set there. The work ethics that you've driven, the personality, the personal ethics too on herself. Shannon was always big on not really having a relationship in high school. He always said girls was going to hold him back and things never had.
Right.
And our daughter doesn't. She's like, this is where I want to go in life and this is where I'm going to go. And she puts herself out there and does that. And she's like, what's the worst that's going to happen is I'm going to fail.
But I'm going to learn from it.
Or I'm going to grow.
Right.
And she's out there doing that, and it's amazing.
You have to be so proud. It's amazing.
I am.
Yeah.
I always say I'd never thought in my mind that you would ever want your kids to like live in your basement and play games every day. That's not what I want, right? And so everyone's like, are you worried about her going and living in New York for the summer? No.
But now's the time.
Right? Like, I'm jealous.
Yes.
Like, I want to go live there for the summer.
Because we didn't do that. You know what I
No.
mean? We were working and going through
Yes,
college
yes.
and that kind of stuff. And now that
Correct.
she can do this, it's
Correct.
amazing to watch.
It is. And the same way, a couple summers ago when she went and lived in Italy for the summer and traveled Europe, that was amazing. I was glad to see her go, and they're like, wow, that's so far. Like, how could you handle that? And I'm like, crazy things happen here in St. Louis.
Right.
Like let's just be honest here. Like, New York's no different than that. Europe's no different than that. And so I was like, go out there and live your life
Yep.
and enjoy it.
It's nice to give them the flexibility to be able to do that and watch them use it to be fruitful.
Right.
You know, so many people would just, if you're just going to take care of me and you're driving me everywhere, then I'm not
Correct.
going to get a license and I'll stay in your
Yes.
basement, I'll live under your roof, and you'll just take
Right.
care of me.
These 20-year-olds without license?
But this is you guys saying, we'll take care of you, but you're going to take this money, which is just a tool, and you're going to go have life experiences with it, and you're going to grow from it. And to see her doing that, we've watched has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like we have nothing but mad respect for her.
I think the more support we gave her, the more money she saved us.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
So we started touring colleges, and she wanted to go to the Vanderbilt there for a while, and it's like $70 or $80 grand. I'm like, how is this even feasible, right? We supported her. We had certain rules, and so what she did was she worked very hard to get a lot of scholarships, and she ended up being pretty close to full ride, and rewarded her with with a car. I'm like, hey, I kind of planned that I was going to spend X amount of dollars per year to an extent, and then you might have to pay. Well, I'm like, you're going scot-free. So here's a car. You keep working in this area, and I'm going to take care of this area. But if you're not making the grades and you're not doing these things, then guess what? Then you need to have a job and you got to pay for this stuff. It was one or the other.
Right.
So she decided she was going to use her brain,
Exactly.
and she's been very successful. And she's 1 year away from graduating college with no student loan debt. So
That's awesome.
And her button business.
Correct.
Yeah,
she's a little
amazing.
entrepreneur.
Yes, she is.
Well, she found out that she how to make money, how to be flexible schedule. She's very busy, and then she hired an employee last year. And the first question I asked her, I said, "How did it feel to make money and not even be there?" She said, "Really good." So I thought that was really cool. She works hard, but the biggest thing is she's able to do it on her schedule.
Yeah.
And she's able to control. There for a while, she revolves around the athletics a lot with school. So like football season, having a great year and stuff, she gets rewarded. She's selling more game day buttons, and then that all kinds of fall apart. And she's like, "Oh man, my cash flow has kind of stopped." So she went back to the drawing board, and she started doing these little pop-ups in the spring whenever you have like a mother-daughter
Mom's
days,
weekend.
and she just kept pushing forward, man, and found ways to make money, and she's done really.
And that's kind of what Shannon said in the beginning. Being strategic and thinking about the plan before its end date. So you can't think about what we're going to do tomorrow or this month. You need to think 3 months, 4 months,
you
next
gotta
year.
plan for that event a couple months ahead at least.
Yeah, and so strategically thinking ahead and being proactive versus reactive in business is very important aspect of
And
it.
she's smart. She's so well disciplined. I mean, she doesn't go out and party because she knows she has to be at work in the morning. She has to do. I mean, she's been working for some of these things since she was in 7th grade, now, if not earlier, trying to be valedictorian and all these things. And her mindset is, why would I go do that and take away this, however many years she's been working for one night or this and that. So she goes home. She, just well disciplined for sure mentally.
I mean, she's very incredible to watch her grow up. She's becoming a young woman, and
Probably
she's
just getting started.
Yeah.
Right.
she's not even worn
She's
yet.
gonna blow us out of the water.
Yeah, she's gonna do such massive things. Like we're excited just to see where she might go with it. 'Cause we're like, I know she's got all these big ideas, but where that actually lands, I don't know. But I know the process that she's going through in the meantime is gonna open up so many doors and windows and roofs and you name it. She's probably going to end up going a direction none of us even seen, and it's going to be huge.
Well, I feel like the rest of them have such big shoes to follow
Oh my
because
gosh.
she's really set the bar high.
Yes. I always say that
Compared to Taylor
sometimes
forever.
I make our son Clayton go to work with me in actual service accounts when I have to. And I'm like, well, you got to know this part first. You have to put in time. You have to put in work ethic. You just don't get handed stuff.
Right.
And you have to work hard to get that stuff. And I think a lot of that generation wants to be handed. They want a house like their parents. They want a car like their parents.
They
want the
expect what they've
title
seen.
like that. Yeah.
Yes.
And they forget the part that their parents worked to get that
It's
way.
the earning part.
Yeah.
Dominic drops trailers, unhooks airlines, chalks tires, moves paperwork. Anytime he comes with it, he don't just get to sit in the truck.
Right.
And he's got to the point now where he's like, hey, you go do this, I'll go do this. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
I mean, like, he tells me
Correct.
what he's going to do. I'm like, okay. Like, I know what I'm doing, so I just let him kind of run it when I'm,
Yes.
if that's what you're going to take from me, go ahead. And then I just double check he did it right, and we're good to go. You know?
He's learning so much more than just chalking tires.
Yeah.
Right.
It's responsibility. It's being on the team, and there's just so many other principles that are being learned.
Yeah, and they don't even know it yet, but we know it. We know that that's what we're trying to instill in them, but they don't know it yet. But I think they're slowly picking it up. They're starting to realize, because you start to see them do it with their teammates or with other people. They start to push those principles on them, and you're like, oh, they were paying attention.
Yeah.
They were listening.
Yeah.
Then that's a proud moment for us, because we're like, man, we really did. I did that one right. You know what I mean? I feel like I screw up so much that I did that one right, but.
In the middle of June, Clayton went on a mission trip, and they really work and serve people in the community. He went to Viburnum with our church, and they do Love Thy Neighbor, where they really work on people's homes and the community and try to repair what's needed for needy people. Clayton resealed 6 driveways with tar.
Jeez.
He's 13. He came home and he said, I think I can open a business where I can just reseal driveways. I was like, well, I don't know about that yet. You don't even drive a car, but like, but hey, that's great that you learned a skill.
Yes.
And you're saying, hey, I can help people do this, and I can make money doing that too. Like all of this big thing is why he was at church camp with his friends.
Right.
And I was like, how excited he was for serving someone else, but also at learning a skill. And he's like, I can't wait till I get on the roof. You should have seen what this guy did on the roof and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and my friends built a wheelchair ramp. And I was like, how?
Yeah.
Like just excited and to see that spark.
Yeah.
Well, it's incredible to see, in closing, and wrapping this all up, where you go from individuals to decide they want to go do business, do some corporate, go into business yourself, family, bring the family into the business. You bring them along for the journey. That's something we're very big along, is everybody comes along for the journey. You have to bring your family into it. Like they have to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and hopefully they'll be the next generation. I think I heard somebody say the other day, Jackie Chan said he wasn't giving any of his kids any of his money, and they're like, well, you've built this huge career. Like, why wouldn't you give him anything? And he said, well, if he's smart enough, he'll make his own, and if he's not, then he'll just waste mine.
Right.
But I want to teach him how to go make his own. So I've got him along on the journey to pay attention to how I do it so he can replicate it, not to give him everything that I've earned. So I love all that. So where can people find you? How can they get a hold of you if they're looking for janitorial supplies or they're looking for Airmaster supplies?
Our website is very nice, www.sevencedersupply.com with the number 7. It's the name of the business. It started on 7 Cedars Road. That's how it got started 50 years ago. But that's the best place to find us. You'll find our telephone number on there. We cover a strong 60-mile radius. So if you have a business and you're looking for a supplier on food service supplies and a break room, you know, we do from a small little 3-person office investment, toilet paper, towels, you know, some cups. We even do some coffee, to big businesses. So if it's close in our driving area, we're going to get it to you.
Okay, cool. And what about you?
Airmaster.com on LinkedIn also.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. We appreciate your time
So
and
excited.
your insight on entrepreneurship and marriage and family and everything involved. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is